Good evening, everyone. Jon Wedger here, going live. It was meant to be Brew with a View, but I'm on the street. So, slight change, do me here, slight change, just show you where I am. I'm on one of the less salubrious parts of London. So I'm not in the on the roof today. So I'm out and about. I'm out and about in quite a rough part of London, actually, doing a little chat. So let's see how we get on round here. I've got my brew and we've got a street view. So I sort of had some issues yesterday, especially with the signal. The signal kept dropping for some reason. The moment I started talking about Kids Company and that charity, the signal sort of dropped out, and it all went a little bit odd, and I started talking about the Reines List and ritual abuse. Again, the signal went on that as well, so very, very strange, you know. Hope you got a stab-proof vest on. Yeah, you need it round here. And anyway, so I want to start continuing what I mentioned yesterday about Kids Company and the fact that there's been hardly any press coverage on the fact that Camilla, the selfless woman who dedicated her life to helping children, who built up this charity from nothing and went on to, at their height, look after 25,000 children, non-residential, but even still make sure they were, you know, fed, watered, cared for, educated and everything else. Because it's poignant, today we've got Father's Day, so happy Father's Day. But like I've been saying all day, this is Father's Day, this is not Baby Father's Day. You know, I think that's an insult to all those of us who have actually made an effort to be a father, not a baby father. Clear difference. So this is Father's Day, not Baby Father's Day. Please don't stick us all in the same pot, you know. Baby daddy's the other thing. It's a horrible term. It's a term that totally lacks any sort of responsibility, and it diminishes what a father is. You know, look, dogs go on the street and shag, you know, wild pigs do that, you know, to procreate, to multiply, and it's you know, that's not what it means to be a father. And some of the biggest problems we have in society today, the fact is the huge absence of fathers, a colossal absence of fathers, you know, and an absence of good fathers. You know, men that generally want to care and look after their children. And I know sometimes there's circumstances that intervene, poverty being one, and addiction and other issues, but it doesn't mean you can't be a good father. Like we said yesterday, it takes time and love to be a good father. So happy Father's Day to all the good ones out there, but not happy Baby Father's Day. Big difference. Let me have a little swig of tea. Anyway, Camilla asked me, she said, how do I know that those that I'm rubbing shoulders with in respect to raising of funds aren't dirty? And I said, well, if they come from the entertainment industry, you know, pretty much a given sometimes. Not all of them, but you know, there are a few obvious wrong ones in that industry. And I was with Chris Fay, and Chris Fay handed me a list called the Reines List, and I've gone on about the Reines List so many times. The list of those involved in satanic ritual abuse of children, and it names many celebrities that may or may not have offered to be benefactors for Kids Company. I don't know, I'm not sure. I handed the list to Camilla. She looked at it with absolute disgust. She was shocked. And what I didn't know was the very next day she attended Downing Street and handed that list to David Cameron with the words, before you point the finger at me, get your own house in order. You know, as was her total and abhorrence and disgust at the names that were on that list, some of which were still serving politicians. Within days, Kids Company was hit with sanctions. And Camilla contacted me and said, that list is dangerous. Jon, for your own safety, get rid of it. Because that's a power of the Reines List. Now, the Reines List is out there. It's been handed to at least 2 Prime Ministers, for what I'm aware. I've handed it to the police complaints people, and nothing is done. Nothing is done. So it's still out there. It's a powerful document. It's yet to be discredited. There's yet to be any sort of civil case taken against it, you know. So, and those on it, I haven't heard anyone that's on it openly sort of denounce their being on there. It seems to be an acceptance that you're on there. So, in my opinion, it's a good, solid document put together by a good, solid person. Anyway, so moving on. The government now, I think it's been instigated by Dominic Cummings, has put pressure on, supposedly, on two-tier Keir, Comrade Keir, to set up this inquiry looking into the grooming gangs, you know. So, you know, I took part as a core participant, a national core participant in the extra inquiry. And if I'm asked, was it worth it? Well, of course, anything that exposes it is worth it. But let's get something very, very clear and very, very right. It is an inquiry, it's not an investigation. As I mentioned before, what is needed is an investigation, a national investigation, which will mean that people are arrested and interviewed under caution, right? Is that going to happen with the investigation? No, it's not. They may take an oath before giving evidence, but they will not be interviewed under caution. And also, in respect to that, I'm not crossing now, I'll get run over. And also in respect to that, nothing will change. Lessons will be learned, or so blah de blah. The government will take full ownership of the evidence and we'll never hear from it again. And it comes back to the old adage, the public gets what the public wants. So there's a lot of people now demanding, even this Kemi Batanoff and some right-wing activists are demanding that there's a government inquiry into grooming gangs. You don't need a government inquiry, you need an investigation, a National Crime Squad run investigation. Like the Hillsborough inquiry, you need to have people on there and they need to swear an oath that they have never been involved or are an active member of Freemasonry, which is what happened with the Hillsborough inquiry, because it was proven, massively proven, to have hindered evidence on the first go. And like we see with this documentary drama that's going out on BBC called Gold, about the Brinks Mat, and you can see how entrenched Freemasonry was in the corrupt distortion of the investigation in relation to Kenny Noy, the cop killer, gangster, criminal, whatever he might be. But it clearly shows it, and it's quite a well documented, what do they call it, corruptible relationship that he had with certain senior officers in Kent Constabulary. But the public gets what the public wants. So let's look at histories of inquiries. Look at the Diana inquiry. How better off are we for having the Diana inquiry? Did it really give us the truth? Did it? No, it didn't. It didn't. And I knew an officer that was on the Diana inquiry, and he turned around to me and he said, if the public believe that it was an accident, they're an effing idiot. And I was told that, you know, they murdered her and that was that. But they had a government inquiry into it. And the guy that was in it at the time, who was quite pivotal in the decision making on that, quite a high ranked police officer, detective, but a huge pedigree behind him. And he turned around and he said, Jon, it will resolve nothing. Nothing will come of it. And that's exactly what's happened. So we will have this government inquiry into grooming gangs. The public gets what the public wants. But all it is Keir Starmer and his other cohorts, his Trotskyite cohorts, taking ownership of all the evidence, and it will then be buried and never heard of again, and no one will be arrested. No one. We do not need another inquiry. We need an investigation. That's what we need. An independent investigation, and we need people arrested. So if we have an inquiry, no one will get nicked. We have an investigation into this, We can not only look at evidence and those that have evaded justice, the Pakistani groomers or whoever they might be, go and nick them on the fresh evidence, right? Give the witnesses, the vulnerable and intimidated witnesses, the special measures they deserve in order to feel safe and confident so they can come forward and speak out, you know, without fear of retribution or attack or whatever else goes with it. Or corrupt local authority officials who will make them homeless for speaking out, or have their benefits removed, or whatever else it might be that is coercive in stopping them telling the truth. And not only that, we can then start looking. We can start looking at those guilty of malfeasance in a public office, the police officers that have deliberately covered this up, deliberately arrested and intimidated the witnesses and not the suspects. Hold them to account, the senior officers who made decisions to shut down people speaking out about this. They're the ones we need to go for, the local authority, the mayors, those in public service that have deliberately protected the paedophiles who groomed and raped these children, right? That's what we need. We don't need another inquiry. And I spoke to a former whistleblowing copper the other day, and she was saying, no, we need an inquiry. And I thought, no, we don't. I'm not denigrating her at all, but no, we don't. We do not need another inquiry. The only one who benefits from an inquiry are the barristers that are paid huge amounts of money to spend years looking into this, right? ICSA, 8 years. If you was on it from the start, you could have paid your mortgage off if you was a solicitor on that, with the money that was made. So, do we need it? No, we don't. No, we don't. It is not needed, right? And, hang on, let me have a little swig of tea. Hiya. Right, we do not need another inquiry, right? It will just be another whitewash. Again, remember the adage, the public gets what the public wants. So my apologies for the tardiness of the brew with a view and the fact that there isn't a view. It's sort of like a brew on a housing estate, but anyway, the message is still the same. You just got a bit more eyes about when I'm here. Right, now I've been doing some research and hopefully I want to put together a nice bit of content in relation to these boat people. And it's really interesting reading about this, you know, and some people who you think are the villains actually aren't. They're actually doing something to stop it. And those that you think are good people actually are not. And it looks like some of the regulations that Fishy Rishi, the billionaire Prime Minister we had, what he brought out was quite good, right, in respect to it all. So, yeah, mate. Yeah, no, I'm just, well, do you want to be on it? All right. Yeah, doing a live, isn't it? Doing a live, bruv. Oh dear, my tea went round the wrong way. Right, I'm on quite an infamous housing estate here. So, on the front line. So we looked at what Fishy Rishi was doing, and what he was doing was just saying, we'll do everything to stop you crossing the water, and if you're caught, you're within a few weeks you're being sent off to Rwanda. So what they did was they turned around and they said any boat coming over within weeks, the people are deported back to country of origin or a third party country, which was Rwanda. Now, it sounded pretty good, you know, positive step, and it was like saying, well, if you are fleeing the violence, we'll send you to a country that's non-violent, and Rwanda has proved to be non-violent. But if you're coming for a free meal ticket, you ain't getting it. And it seemed all right, but of course it was European courts that prevented it. It was European solicitors, human rights lawyers that prevented it, not Rishi Sunak. And so if we take, for example, in 2024, right, in 1 year, 40,000 people came by rigid inflatable boats or fully inflatable boats across the busiest shipping lane in the world, the English Channel, and made it onto our shores. Government vowed that within weeks they'll be processed and sent back to their country or a third world or a third party country, right? 40,000, right? 95% of them, so 95% claimed asylum. 95%. Out of those, the amount to actually be sent back that year was 21. 21. Well, they needn't have bothered. 21. You know, it's unbelievable. Right, so this is quite an infamous housing estate. This is the old Rowley Way estate. This is, back in the day, quite a rough old place. Call it brutalist architecture, this, right? So 21, and I think the year before, 65,000 were came over, 65,000, and I think 90 claimed asylum, and they're coming from countries like, such as Syria, Eritrea, Afghanistan. Afghanistan was by far the most. Well, I thought the war in Afghanistan was over, you know, I thought it was declared safe, and it's now getting touristy. Iran, again, Iran, how is it an issue there? I don't know, but they're coming over. Now the French, so that they're mocking the French police and saying that the French police are standing by and watching. Well, let's not blame the French here, right? Because I think the British police will probably do the same. But when you look at the law, French law, the police are not allowed to detain anyone or interfere if they're already on the water. So what the boats do, they go out from a tidal stream leading into an estuary in is it Gravelines, just between Calais and Dieppe. They put the boat in the river there, and then from there, what they do, what they do from there is they then load the people on the river and then just poodle out to sea, right? And the French aren't allowed to. They're not allowed to stop them, right? So it's not their fault, okay? And also, they get the people to wade into the sea before the police come. Once their feet are in the water, they're classed as being in the water. So again, it's nothing to do with them. So they come across. Now that channel is monitored by the Port of Dover, and it's got spy drones, it's got everything going on there, right? The whole lot, they monitor every single one. And the Royal Yacht Association have trained its members to assist in any boat that is struggling. So they are giving those that hold RYA licenses, they're giving them instructions on how to assist with the vessel, and also the shipping. Those in shipping, the masters of the ship and everything else, they are, here we go, look, Rowley Way. So this is, let's show you. Right, here it's Rowley Way. So that's that thing, everyone's seen the Kingsman. That's the estate. That's the estate it's on. So, yeah, so the shipping, they're also told, and you know, and trained to sort of help boats in trouble without endangering their vessel and you know, the safety at sea in general. So they're all trained and they're all taught to pass. Hello, how are you? All right, yeah, good. Yeah, I'm proud. Okay. Anyway, so so there you have it. So they all know, and the whole of the area is covered by satellite footage, up-to-date live footage and drone footage. So they keep tabs on every boat that is going across there. And the more you look into it, the more, it's unbelievable. But the people that come on, right, if they, like I said earlier, if they're escorted in, by the Borders Agency, it's classed as an arrival, and it's not classed as an illegal entry, right? So the way their process is different. They are not then subject to deliberately invading the immigration, which is a criminal offence of 12 months in prison, fine, or both, right? So they're not subject to that. So they are then processed, and a doctor should be called to assess their fitness to enter the country. So really, anyone with a contagion or a life-threatening ailment, you know, should be outed back, you know, and that's what it should be doing. And France has agreed that it will allow the boats back in if they're turned around, but they're not being turned around at all. And on many occasions, the French have allowed them back, but they're not being turned around. So, just see the shite hole. It's a nice, nice look. That'll do something. It'll be a nice Christmas present, that, for someone. There you go. Yeah, Magda, look, it's a nice Christmas present for you there. There we go. We need one of them at home. So it's really, really interesting, and it's a lacklustre approach and a deliberate attempt to allow ourselves to be flooded in. And so the other day, so it's Friday the 13th, 14 boats came in. 14 boats, and something like over 1,000 people arrived on that day alone. So it's not that they don't know, they know everyone. So I thought it would just be a bit of hit and miss, that they didn't have a clue who's who or what's what, but that's not the truth, they do. And I've seen footage of the control room. It's a bit like the police control room in Lambeth. It's immense. So it's really, really interesting looking at the law behind it, because we're getting a situation now where the right is turning around and saying that this has got to stop and everything else. But what you've got to look at, when you investigate a crime, you've got to look at everything that goes on, all the main actors and all the bit players in it. And there you have your pattern. So instantly we can point the finger at someone and saying, look, they're doing this, they're doing that. We've got to look at the bigger picture here. You've got to look at the actual offence and break it down. And then you've got to look at those involved in it. And then when you look at the border force and you know, their inception, what they were brought in, and this distinction between illegal entry and an arrival is honestly, it really is quite harrowing when you sort of find this out. And the fact that a doctor should be called to assess the health of these people, not just, you know, in case of crossing the, you know, the high seas and all that. And also they say they risk their lives, but listen, these boats don't go out in choppy water, because that coxswain has to take that boat there and take it back again, right? So there are days when it's high, shitey weather on the seas, they don't bother, right? So they're not risking their lives. So it's all risking lives, risking lives. Well, if you're going to risk your life, don't bother doing it, you know? Stay in France. So it's nothing to do with risking your life. There were 2 days before the 13th, not one arrival, not one. 13th come because the sea state was mild and 14 boats hit it. So they did 14 times that what they'd normally do. So that means 14 boats were ready to go. And then they returned back, and then they went back again. And they go from a river. So you start looking at the whole picture, and that's what investigators should do. Because I see a lot of people spouting off about it, but really look into it. Look into it, and look at the legislation behind it. And it's very, very, very telling, and very, very interesting, you know? So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to be putting a presentation together on that. I've been talking to a guy, I won't say his name just yet, but we're looking at putting some content out together. He's an ex-criminal, and we're going to be doing a little series of looking at topical current affairs issues, but I'm taking my experience as a ROSA and his as an ex-con, and we're looking at getting expert witnesses on board, you know, and getting their opinion. So, for example, knife crime, get it from a police perspective, you know, with police statistics, who's actually committing it from the police's point of view, not approaching it to denigrate a demographic or a race or anything like that, but just give it a bit of factual input, and then come at it from his point of view as someone who has been involved in addiction and criminality and violence. And then, you know, the first responders, you know, someone like, say, a paramedic on scene or a medical expert will give an opinion on what happens when you stick a knife in someone's guts, you know? And it's glamorized, isn't it, by popular culture, about, you know, as sort of like a rite of passage if you've got a knife wound or whatever. But let's look at the reality. You stick a knife in someone's guts, they're going to be shiting in a bag for the rest of their life. They will have what's known as a stoma bag, which means their shite, their defecate, will go into a bag for the rest of their natural days, right? Now that's going to leak and that's going to stink, right? So where's the glory and glamour there? And the same as a bullet. You pump a bullet into someone, and if you pump it into the chest cavity, that bullet hits your ribs, your spine, and it ricochets. And as it ricochets, it goes through soft tissue, your internal organs, which are protected by your rib cage because they're vitally important. And it will come from the outside, and it will drag in dirt and filth into your chest cavity, which is sealed, right, with a membrane. And it will take detritus, filth, bacteria from the outside and bounce it around your body, giving you horrendous infections, ripping holes in your soft matter before it comes to rest, and in doing so smashing bits of your bone, absolutely obliterating your bone. And if that's your spine, which encases a spinal column, the higher up your spine is injured, the greater your disability. So where's the glamour there? So that's what we're going to be doing, and we're going to look at doing it as really as a job, as it were, and putting it out, but try and balance it. So so that's that. But I'm also going to be doing a little bit of research in respect to Kids Company and the silence really on the establishment for the damage they've done, the irreparable damage they did when they shut down that fantastic charity. So, of which I'm a huge advocate of. So so that's that. Right, so how are we doing? I never know with YouTube, with your viewing figures, who is giving these folk the thousands of money? Well, it costs, what I was told by someone, I spoke to a coxswain of the boat, and a coxswain is, a coxswain is the driver of a boat for the ignorant. He drives a boat. So the coxswain of this boat, who navigated across the channel, was telling me that the Kurdish mafia, who are heavily involved and very instrumental in the importation, manufacture of heroin, high purity heroin, of which are first hand, because they're the ones who tried to kill me, they now run the nuts and bolts of it, provide the boats and everything else, and they charge these young lads €2,500 per passage. So if you can shove 20, 30 people, 40 people on one of them boats, big money, you know, and then punt it across the 27 miles with an outboard maybe pushing 10 knots, maybe less, I don't know, depending on the tide and everything else. So in a few hours you're there. You then get escorted once you're within a 12-mile reach, which won't take long. So you've only got about 6 miles of sort of no man's land. Once you leave French international waters, maybe an hour, you're on British international waters. The border force then escort you in as an arrival. You're then met by a doctor, and then you are then fingerprinted, and you are then catered for. And you should be subject to removal within weeks. But like we saw in 2024, out of 40,000 that came in, mainly from Afghanistan, Iran, and Syria. Now I've seen pictures of Iran. It seems, although they've got the mullahs involved, and it seems to be doing quite well. So why are we taking, I don't know how it works. Afghanistan, I know their country's had a good kick in, and so has Syria, but Iran, anyway, 95% of them claim asylum, political asylum. Not the women, not the children so much, majority of young men from adolescent age up until to their 30s or whatever. That seems to be, from what I've been looking at. 95% of them claim asylum straight away. And as of out of 40,000, if only 21 got deported, in which the government promised most of them would be fast-tracked and deported within weeks. It never happened. 21. And the cost is, I did have the costings of how much they charge to process one person, and it's in the tens of thousands. It's a ridiculous amount of money it's costing the government. Only 21 were successfully deported. Well, they might as well not bother. I mean, what is a fraction of 21 to 40,000? It's negligible. Don't bother. Why make the effort? It seems absolutely futile. So there you have it. Back where I started. So, yep, why bother? So, I'm a female, and in chat also hit the like button. John is a true. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, please like and subscribe. Let's get my channel up to 100,000. It's halfway there anyway, but let's get up to 100,000. Let's see where we go, you know. And look, I have got a Patreon, and I'm going to put the details of my Patreon. I don't know how to do it on here, but and you know, I'm just asking, if you like my stuff, if you could chuck £1 a month in, £1, one Alan Wicker, right, a month, a squid, right, a month. Well, that will get me and my my ex-con mate up and running with our venture. So and Redemption, we finished filming for Redemption. We did the last bit of the church in the East End the other day, and it's now down to my technical chap to start putting the bits and pieces together for that, and that's it. We're up and running, you know. Someone said, John, do you go to church? Yes. So I attend church. I love church. Never used to like it, but I love it now. And I go whenever I can. I think it's good to be in prayer, you know, covered in prayer. And again, that'll all be in the book. So do you know how Wilfred Wong is doing? Wilfred has sort of withdrawn communication really from the outside world. He's now been moved to a prison in Peterborough, and he's, as far as I know, last comms I had with Wilfred, he's doing okay. Doing okay, bless him. He got hit hard, and this is a problem when you become an enemy of the state. You know, when you're caught, don't bellyache, because they're going to hit you, and they're going to hit you proper hard. They're going to kick you straight in the Jacobs. You're really going to get it. So don't give them the opportunity. Like I say, do everything within the parameter of the law, you know. And if it don't happen, then what can you do, you know? The main thing you have is freedom. Liberty and freedom. It's the main goal. It's number one priority. Keep your freedom, you know. So but you know, we're in. So I'm reading comments. You know, we're in changing times now, and it's biblical changing times. If we look at what's happening with Israel and Iran, well, if that isn't a biblical prophecy, I don't know what is. So we can only pray that that the right thing happens and this gets resolved. We don't want bloodshed, and we definitely don't want our children being sent out to foreign lands to fight and die for a cause that's got nothing to do with them. I mean, it'd just be the most appalling waste of life, and I think all wars are a shocking waste of life. Stop the child trafficking. Yeah, well, again, we all get targeted. Listen, if you're going to start shining the light on filth and exposing the deeds of the devil, you know, look. He's doing a wheelie up the busiest road in the UK. Mad little man, you know, it's crazy. So that's my little Father's Day message. I was meant to be on a major Welsh radio station. I was asked to go on and give an interview in a studio in Cardiff this morning, but circumstances beyond our control stopped that from happening. But anyway, so like I say, this is a happy Father's Day, not happy baby Father's Day. Big difference there. Please like and subscribe, get the message out there. And if there's a topic that you like me to look into, or a crime or something, please let me know. If it's reasonable, I will do it. If it's unreasonable, I won't do it. Okay? And I will have my own reasons for refusing to do that. And you know, I do get a lot of people contact me, and if I deem someone reasonable, I'll always try and assist. But if I deem them unreasonable, I won't. Only because I have taken up the case of the stranger in the past, and someone's been very damaged, and they've been highly unreasonable, and it's just caused me more grief than it's worth. So, you know, but you know, looking into a case, please. I like doing the research. It makes me feel like the detective I once was. I like to break things down, and because, you know, I'm used to doing things to what's known as beyond all reasonable doubt, to a Crown Court standard. And then when you do that, you have to look at evidence that goes towards your suspects and away from your suspects. And unfortunately, so many people, when I see them, they're very selective of what they choose. So they only gob off about things that placate their opinion. And it becomes awfully biased, and you know, and you can't really make an intelligent conversation with it, because you're cherry picking something that placates, you know, your political opinion, your thesis, or even your bias of what's gone on, you know. So, but be very cautious of this government inquiry. In one way, it's a good thing. There'll be many people exposed that don't want to be exposed. There'll be many authorities exposed that don't want to. So I'm all behind that. 1 minute, gonna sneeze. Am I not? So I'm all behind that. But you know, the clue is in the title. Inquiry, not investigation. Right? They're going to inquire. It is a toothless tiger. They may compel and subpoena witnesses to give evidence. Well, so what? Whoop-de-whoop. You know, really? They're not going to go booting indoors, cuffing people and dragging them off to the cells, are they? And they are not going to start arresting those in public office for malfeasance. They're not. So we really need to stop and think about these things. It's pyramid selling, right? It's pyramid selling. That's all it is. The public gets what the public wants. Do you really think two-tier care is bothered? No, he's not. And Dominic Cummings, if he's anywhere behind this, be careful of that snake. Because that man was part of the audit trail in taking down Kids Company. Be careful of him, as was Oliver Letwin. You know, look into these people, research them, know what they are, know what a cabinet minister is, know what a special advisor is. And when I do my little investigations, I will explain who all these main actors and bit part actors are and what their job is, because not all is as it seems, you know. The devil's a liar. He speaks the language of deception, you know, and if you ask them, are they doing the right thing, they're going to tell you yes, but clearly it's a no. So anyway, sorry, Brew with a View has come from Rowley Way Housing Estate, you know, and it hasn't come from the tower block, but that's just how it goes, So, you know, I'm going to be putting out a bit of content this next coming months and everything else. Like and subscribe. If you want to fund it, Patreon is there. Please do it. And, you know, and I'll try and get going, try and put something quite interesting out on YouTube, because, you know, I'd like to take a pragmatic approach to this. I stood up for a guy at an immigration hearing. It was a convicted drug importer, right? But at the same time, the guy was incredibly brave, because he helped with some major inquiries, and he caught, helped put some very serious gangsters away, right? Yes, he was involved in the heroin trade and bringing in heroin. He was a young man, and there's all mitigation behind it, and there was a lot of duress and coercion involved in it. But I could see reason in his staying in this country because of the good he was trying to do, right? But eventually he did get deported, and he suffered terribly. So I'm not against illegal immigration per se. Everyone's got a reason. But the piss is being taken. And while the cat's away, the mice will play. And if we're not hitting this loophole, and it is a loophole, then the piss gets well and truly taken. And it is. There are genuine people coming over on them boats, but there are a lot of piss takers as well. And it's only by detaining them and sifting through it will we find out. But just opening the door and a blanket. Hello chaps, how are you? Good. Hey. They're some of my viewers. They're lovely. Again, they're migrants. I think they're from I can't remember what country they're from. They're from the Far East or something, And I'm not into all that throwing a blanket over everyone and calling them the same thing, because that's not the truth. So look, they are some of my top viewers, them guys, and I think they might be from Iran. I'm not sure, but bless them. Anyway, my brew's nearly finished. Jesus wins. The devil's a liar. Speak the truth. Stand up for what is right, and have a good evening. And click subscribe, follow, all that nonsense. And let's get me viewing figures up. Let's put out some good content. I appreciate every single person. And one of the first viewers today, I want to say a big thank you to Mrs. Paula Brown, Gypsy Paula. God bless you, and you've been a very, very loyal fan right from the start, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I hope all goes well. So, and everyone else, I'll look through the comments a bit later on. And who we got on here? I can't, anyway, it's all a bit little. But thank you so much, all right? I'm going to log out, but I don't know how to log out. How do I log out? I'll do that one.